What's going on, everybody? So basically, the reason why I'm making this video today on this Monday is because Jim Ross made some comments, this past weekend. They got a lot of wrestlers at AEW a little bit upset. A few wrestlers at AEW upset, basically. So basically, Jim Ross is, basically he did like a little interview, and basically Jim Ross was basically criticizing AEW. And in this quote that I'm about to read, it pretty much sums up what Jim Ross said. He was talking about, I told a kid the other day at AEW that everybody does the same effing spot. All you guys go outside, you cluster up like coils. Yeah, you stand there in a huddle, friends and foes together, side by side, so you can catch some leaping idiot going over the top who never wins with this move, JR says on his Grilling JR podcast. So that's where JR said it. Basically, he was also saying that how they were looking for the holy shit chants, and they love to hear this is awesome. It's a spot, folks. It's a trapeze act. I don't buy into that. And like JR said, man, he pretty much went into what most of the AEW wrestlers pretty much are. That's one of the main criticisms that a lot of people have about AEW is the fact that it's a spot fest. It's a spot fest, indie fest, full of indie wrestlers, and it's crazy. And this is also one of the main problems that I actually have with NXT. I think JR also said in this podcast, he also talked about how, they need the DDT and the super kick. It's not being protected anymore, man. Basically saying how these finishers are not finishing up this match. And you know what? Hearing this, like I said, many people have, they agree with JR, and there's many people, mainly in particular, the AEW roster, that some of the AEW wrestlers who are not buying into this. And in my personal opinion, I am actually on the side of JR here. I am on the side of JR. JR is 100% absolutely right. When I look at almost every AEW match, it's pretty much the same. And that can even be with NXT. Like, every match is the same match. And I even said in a few videos a few months ago, man. I even said it myself, man. It's like, you can come in the ring and you can do all these flip-flop BS. But, the main thing, if you can't tell a story, if you can't tell a story, then you're not going to get over as a wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get over. You know what I mean? But that's just me. That's just in my opinion. I believe that storytelling really should matter in wrestling. Why do you think many people love New Japan? Because they're not just their matches, but their storytelling. But, yeah, man. And basically, someone at AEW, a wrestler at AEW, was pretty much talking about, look, I know there's a lot that JR can teach us, but burying us on the show or on his podcast is only going to make some of us ignore what he says. An unnamed wrestler told Wrestling News, I grew up watching JR, and he is the best, and we love it that he calls our matches, but maybe find a different way to criticize the wrestlers in the ring. Everyone is doing what they have been taught. I agree that sometimes things need to be slowed down, but that won't happen when the guy who is supposed to help put us over going out there in puppy bands. I don't think JR is burying the AEW wrestlers. This is more of, in a way of, criticism. Jim Ross, he's just telling it like it is, man. I understand Jim Ross is a legend, and rightfully so. He's the greatest commentator of all time. But Jim Ross, good old JR, is absolutely right in a sense. These wrestlers are athletes, but you can't just, come in here and do all this those spot fests and stuff and think it's going to get over. I mean, it may get over, with the this is awesome and holy shit, but then once that goes down, it's back to a normal match, and it's back to, okay, well, what's the storytelling here? What is the plan here in the match? So, like I said, man, I 100% agree with JR, man. See, a problem with a lot of these wrestlers, man, and then these wrestlers wonder why they don't get to the next stage. These wrestlers wonder why they don't go to the next position in the company, why they don't get the spotlight. You gotta be able, and it doesn't matter if you're a wrestler or a basketball player, when people give us advice, we have to be able to take it, and we have to, because when people give us advice, they see potential, and but they know you can improve. I mean, look what happened with WWE. Look what happened with Keith Lee. Why do you think Keith Lee and Otis and them are being sent down to the Performance Center? Maybe because Vince sees potential, and especially Keith Lee, and was like, hey, dude, I got something special for you, but you have to show me why you want to be here. You have to show me why, And let me tell you something, people, with these high spots, man, it can be a little bit dangerous, bro. Like, when you see a lot of these wrestlers who wrestle this type of style, why do you think, like in the WWE, when they get into that main event position, why do you think the WWE waters down their moveset so they won't get injured? When you look at someone like The Miz, has never, or someone like Randy Orton, someone who has wrestled, who doesn't really wrestle this type of style of wrestling, and they hardly get injured. And The Miz, like, I have never seen The Miz, like, unless it's a storyline injury, like real life, I've never seen The Miz actually injured. I can't recall a time where I saw The Miz being written off TV due to an injury. The only time I've seen him is most likely when there's a movie coming out, or when he's having a baby with his lovely wife, Maurice. So, like I said, man, Jim Ross is absolutely right. I don't want to keep this any very long. If I'm these AEW wrestlers, because Jim Ross is talking mainly, particularly to them, I'm not gonna sit up here and be like, oh well, fuck Jim Ross. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So he grew up as a time wrestling has changed, wrestling has evolved. You know what I mean? But I would take the advice. If The Undertaker is coming to me and telling me how I can be a better wrestler, how I can improve my craft, I'm not going to sit up here and look at The Undertaker like, oh, well, you're old and you're retired and you're washed up. You don't know what you're talking about. But Undertaker's been in the wrestling business for 30 years. The Undertaker has been in the wrestling business for almost 3 decades, really 3 decades. The Undertaker knows. Okay, Jim Ross, even though he's not a wrestler, but as a commentator, as him seeing throughout the days of wrestling, he knows. So you're and I know these wrestlers are like, but we've been trained. So you could still be trained and you still have room to improve. Jim Ross is just giving his opinion, and rightfully so. I 100% agree. If I'm these wrestlers, and I don't want this video to seem like I'm bashing AEW or, oh my God, you're a WWE mark, you're an E-drone, you're a wash-up. Nah. Okay? I love AEW. I think AEW is a wonderful company. I think AEW has a lot of potential. With the way they've been doing stuff, that they can be a great company. Their production is amazing. But, sometimes, man, you just gotta, when you get that shit, man, you gotta take it in the bag, and you gotta handle it, man. Use it. Use the advice. Improve your craft, because we all in this world, we can all improve. So that's just my thoughts on the Jim Ross thing. I'm gonna upload this video. I'm doing this video right before class. I'm giving you guys a effing video to watch. I hope you enjoy it. If you haven't seen my TLC predictions, man, go see it. And if you haven't seen my last video, where I talk about Kenny Omega's Impact relationship, go see that video, man. Subscribe to the channel, like, comment. Tell me in the comment section, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with Jim Ross? Tell me why. Well, you probably already know why. But if you actually disagree with Jim Ross, tell me, man. Tell the people, man, why you disagree with Jim Ross. So that's the video, y'all.